Stephen, we are now live.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, and welcome to this meeting on the Rancho Cienega Sports Complex and Proposition 68. Today is Monday, January 25th, 2021, and this is a meeting hosted by the Department of Recreation and Parks and Bureau of Engineering in partnership with the Office of Council Member Mark Ridley Thomas and our community partner Cedars-Sinai. My name is Stephen Tran from the Department of Recreation and Parks, and I welcome you to this meeting on the proposed project at Rancho Cienega Sports Complex for Proposition 68 grant funding. Rancho Cienega Sports Complex is located at 5001 Obama Boulevard in Los Angeles, California, and it is located within Council District 10. I have presented to you here information on the facility. So if you have any questions about the facility, about programming, you can go ahead and directly reach the office of the facility. Now you can follow this meeting on Zoom as well as Facebook Live. After this presentation is complete, we will go ahead and upload the meeting on our YouTube channel. Now go over some brief guidelines with you. First thing we'd like you to do is sign in, and please do so at your earliest convenience. Yumi has provided you with a link in the chat box. It's a very short survey. It will help us track attendance, which is very important for the grant proposal. Now, at the end, we will have a questions and answers section. So if you would like to ask a question, you can do so at any time by typing in the question in the chat box, and we will go over the questions after the presentation. And also at the end of the meeting, we will have a link for a general audience survey, so you can let us know how we're doing. Now for today's panelists, we have Mr. Kimani Black, the Deputy District Director from the Office of Council Member Mark Ridley Thomas. We later on will have Laurel Barash, Research Advisor from Cedars-Sinai. From the Bureau of Engineering, we have Ohaji Abdallah, who's an Architectural Associate and Project Manager for this project. From Rec and Parks, we have Daryl Ford, our Superintendent for Planning, Construction, and Maintenance. And from Rec and Parks Grants Administration, we have Bill Jones, our Chief Management Analyst. I'm Stephen Tran, a Senior Management Analyst, and Yumi Sangin, Management Assistant. Interpreting for us in Spanish is Eduardo Herrera from Barbier International. And I'd like to go over the summary of today's agenda. The first thing we'll have is an opening remark from Mr. Kimani Black, and then I will go over some of the general Prop 68 guidelines with you. Then I'll turn it over to Daryl Ford and Ohaji Abdallah for an overview of the scope of work for this final and round 4 application. And once Laurel joins us, she'll present slides on the health benefits of park usage as part of her work at Cedars-Sinai. And then we'll have a question and answers section. So anytime, please feel free to type in your questions either in English or Spanish in the chat box. And then just to round off, we'll have a survey and a closing remark from CD10. So I'll introduce you to Mr. Kimani Black, who will give us an opening remark from the Office of Council Member Mark Ridley Thomas. Kimani?
Good afternoon, Kimani Black, Office of Council Member Mark Ridley Thomas. I want to thank everybody for attending today. This is about an ongoing project that we've been having in this community for quite some time. I see Coach Brookins on the line. It's good to have you here again, sir. He was one of the main people who are instrumental into the revitalization of Rancho Cienega Sports Complex. This is going to be a very good project for our community because we don't have country clubs. All we have is our parks and our neighborhoods. And when you put more money into parks and more resources into parks, it makes the community a lot safer. We look forward to hearing your comments, your suggestions, and any questions you may have. Thank you for attending.
Thank you, Kimani. And as I said earlier, later on, Cedars-Sinai will join us with a presentation. So just to go over some of the objectives of this meeting today, we want to inform you of this funding opportunity, which is from the state, and it's a Proposition 68 grant funding opportunity. Rec and Parks will resubmit a grant application for the 4th and final round. And we would like to present to you this project for your review and feedback. And it's very important for us to be able to provide you with a platform to provide us with your ideas and suggestions. We have held a number of meetings since 2013 on this topic. And back in 2018 through 2019, Rec and Parks conducted 5 meetings specifically surrounding Proposition 68 funding and Rancho Cienega. So this would be our 6th meeting as part of Prop 68 meeting series. I'd like to give you an overview of some of the facts surrounding Prop 68. So Prop 68's objective was to create new parks and new recreation opportunities in critically underserved communities. It was passed on June 5th of 2018 by 57% of voters. We are now in the 4th and final round of the statewide park program, which is being funded through Prop 68. Now, what's the total amount of funding available for the 4th and final round? $395 million. So that's a whole lot of funding available. And that's why this application is so critical. Now, this application is for a competitive grant, which means that we are going to submit this grant application. It will go to the state, and the state will review and provide grants on a competitive basis. So there's no guarantee that there will be funding. However, we hope that given the strength of the application, that we will be successful in gaining a grant from the state. The maximum award is $8.5 million. And the applications are due on March 12th of 2021. Now, should we be successful in having a grant award by the state, this project must be completed by 2025. I'd like to go over some of the round 3 results. And round 3 was, all the round 3 applications were submitted back in 2019. And the state basically announced all the grant awards last year. There were 478 applications requesting $2.3 billion. And the entire pot of funding for the 3rd round was about $255 million. The average grant request was $4.5 million, and the average grant award was $4.1 million. Now, out of the 478 applications that the state received, it awarded 62 of them. And of the 62 projects that were awarded grants, 28 were to create new parks, 14 were for the expansions of existing parks, and 20 were for renovations. Now, how does an application become eligible? How does a project become eligible? So it has to essentially create or renovate at least one recreation feature. And as Daryl and Ohaji will show you, we have a number of recreation features that we're hoping to create and renovate. So all these applications must meet at least one of the following criteria within 1/2 mile of the project site. So the community surrounding the park must have 3 acres or less of parkland for 1,000 people, and the median household income must be less than $56,982. So that's the threshold. And for this community, we have less than 3 acres of park space for 1,000 people. We have 2.35 acres, and the median household income level meets that threshold as well because it is less than 56,000. It's in fact 48,776. And now I'd like to hand over the presentation to Daryl Ford, our superintendent for planning, construction, and maintenance, who will alternate the presentation with Ohaji Abdallah from the Bureau of Engineering. So Daryl?
Thanks, Stephen. Again, Daryl Ford, I'm the superintendent for planning, construction, and maintenance of recreation and parks. So just wanted to chime in here. Stephen had noted earlier in the presentation, we did submit for a grant for Proposition 68 for this project in the previous round. And right now, I just want to walk you through what we submitted in the last round because it's important for the context of what we're proposing to submit for this upcoming round, which is substantially a very similar scope. And it's also important just to give some context, just to show or talk to the community a little bit about some of the things that we heard from you before in the earlier meetings, which we had incorporated in all through the design of this project, as Kamani had indicated at the beginning of this presentation. This is a project that is ongoing. So I'll talk a little bit about what was submitted in the round 3 scope, and I'll turn it over to Ohaji to just bring us up to speed on sort of what is going on right now with phase 1 of the project. So in round 3 for Proposition 68, we submitted what is essentially called phase 2 of the Rancho Cienega project. So phase 2 of the project really were all of the outdoor improvements for the project, including the baseball fields. 2 new multi-purpose fields were proposed as a part of phase 2, picnic areas, bleachers, irrigation and landscaping improvements. There are multiple parking lots that were included in phase 2. This is if you're looking at the screen on the upper left-hand corner of the screen, you'll see some of the parking areas that were proposed to be included as a part of phase 2. The skate park improvements were also proposed as a part of phase 2, as well as upgrades to the existing soccer fields and tennis courts and basketball courts and lighting upgrades and resurfacing. So in our round 3 application, we were trying to get funding for the entirety of the outdoor improvements at Rancho Park that were being proposed as a part of phase 2. As Stephen had noted, we weren't successful in doing so. However, we did feel that it was important for us to try again to reapply to the state to get funding for the majority of those improvements. So we have made some changes to what we're going to apply for, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. In round 4, our intent behind doing that is to try to develop a little bit of a tighter application that we think will be received more favorably upon the state, but also to make sure that we're trying to get funding for some of those critical capital improvements that we need in the ballfield area. So just briefly, before we start talking about what's proposed for round 4, just want to turn it over to Ohaji to catch us up on the first phase of the Rancho Cienega project, the gym and the pool, and sort of where we're at with that. Again, I think it'll provide some helpful context to talk about how the city is approaching this as an overall project and really the progress that we've already made on some of the other elements. Ohaji?
Excuse me, I'm sorry, on mute. Haji Abdullah here with the Bureau of Engineering Architectural Division. Thank you for having me today. As Daryl and team have mentioned, this 24-acre park rehabilitation and renovation was implemented in a master planning concept. So a master plan was created, and what you are seeing today is the implementation of that master plan and further implementation. The phase 1 covered the the major structures on the project, which was the design and construction of a 38,000 square foot indoor gym and indoor pool, as well as the renovation of the existing tennis shop and new parking lots with stormwater improvements. It also includes a massive electrical infrastructure upgrade to accommodate the future phases that will be hopefully funded in the future with the Prop 68 funds. Also, a portion of the work in phase one is also going to include the demolition of the existing pool and possible replacement of that structure with a playground, benches, lighting, etc. The pictures, and you may move forward. And as you can see here, the area that is in white is considered the phase one scope of work. The gym itself is a massive undertaking for our community. We ensured that we designed and constructed a gym that can accommodate 2 high school level games at the same time. The pool is also a new standard for RAP facilities in that it is large enough to accommodate all of the lane and swimming and competition swimming teams, while having separate areas for the summer play in the shallow ends. And you can move to the next slide, please. What you're looking at here is the structure for the new facility. Nearest to us in this picture is the pool structure, and to the left furthest away is the gym structure. Next slide, please. And you can kind of see the progress in its entirety. Those who live in the area have been watching these projects go up for some time. It has been a massive undertaking. There were significant soil issues that we had to deal with, which caused some delays early on in the project, but we have moved forward and intend to complete construction of phase one by June of this year. Next slide, please.
I'll go jump in. So again, this is Daryl Ford. Just so thanks, Haji. So that was just again a walkthrough of where we're at with phase one of this project. And now I just want to talk about sort of the application that we are proposing to submit for round 4 of the Proposition 68 program and the outdoor elements that we would like to request the state fund. So just briefly, on the screen in front of you are those major elements. We are going to be requesting funding for the amphitheater and the outdoor performing arts space. We'll be requesting funding for the skate park expansion, for the construction of 1 new striped multi-purpose field, and we'll talk about where that one is, to construct another new non-striped multi-purpose field, this again, an artificial turf field. The scope will include lighting throughout the outdoor areas in phase 2 of the project, as well as the basketball and tennis court improvements. It will also include the construction of a new picnic area that'll be adjacent to the basketball courts and the existing soccer field, and additionally, some shade structures at the tennis court area. And again, as Ohaji had noted, this is all part of a comprehensive master plan that's been proposed for Rancho Cienega for this project. And our round 4 scope of work, while it does not include all of the improvements that are currently envisioned in phase 2, after reviewing what we submitted in the first round and looking at the funding available, we determined that these would be the elements that we believe would be the most competitive for the application. But of course, the purpose of today's meeting is to hear from you what your input is, what your thoughts are, and to make sure that we are focusing on those key improvements. The next slide is the graphic that shows the round 4 scope of work. So very similar to the previous slides you've seen. You see the entirety of the image in front of you is essentially the overall master plan. You see the elements that are listed as not in the scope. And then again, those areas that are not hatched, the ones that are in white towards the center of the screen, to the right of the screen, those are the improvements that we are proposing to submit this grant application for. They're all portions of the phase 2. So again, it's the improvements to the baseball field. It's the new artificial multi-purpose field that would be built and replacing one of those ball diamonds. It is the replacement of that existing our new field lighting and new bleachers over by the existing soccer field, the additional skate park improvements that you can see in the north part of the top of the picture as well as a portion of that parking lot on the north side of the park, or yes, on the north side of the park. And then again, the basketball court and tennis court improvements are all proposed to be included in the round 4 scope of work that we want to apply to the state for. So again, the goal of today's meeting was to just talk to you about sort of where we're at with this overall project, what we had done in the past, and the scope of work that we were proposing to apply for in the future. But again, we're here to hear from you, get your input and your thoughts, and any direction you can give us, any questions you may have for us. Overall, again, our goal as always with these projects is to make sure that what we're submitting is supported by the community and is reflective of your desires. And again, we know that this has been a large master plan project and it's starting to come to fruition. And we want to make sure that as we're applying for additional funds, we have identified and prioritized the appropriate scope elements that are remaining to be funded in the project. So thank you for participating in this presentation, and we look forward to your questions and any answers we can give you today.
Thank you, Daryl. So I believe that Laurel has joined us just now. Hi, Laurel.
Hi, I joined. Yep, I'm just setting up here on my computer.
Okay. We can go ahead and have you present right now. Actually, you just arrived when, the general presentation on the planning aspect was just concluded. So we can switch over.
Great. If you don't mind, I just need about 2 minutes. I'm just logging on to the presentation from my computer. I'm on my phone and my computer. So.
Okay. So you know what? Why don't we go ahead and just go and answer some of the questions first? Okay. So does anybody have any question so far?
Okay, I have my computer set up. So if you're ready for me to start and you want to just let me share my slides.
Sure. So Laura, I went ahead and stopped the share.
Okay. Okay, it's not giving me an option yet. Sorry for everyone.
No worries.
Hanging on.
And while Laurel is actually preparing, I just want to tell you a few things about Laurel. So Laurel is a public health professional with an expertise in health disparity research. She received her Master's of Public Health from the Graduate School of Public Health at San Diego State University and a Bachelor's of Arts in Social Ecology from UC Irvine. And her early career was focused on global health research, and she participated in projects in Mexico, Jamaica, Australia, and Europe. So over the last 9 years, she has worked to address health disparities among adolescents and young adults with cancer in the greater Los Angeles region. She's currently a research advisor at the Cancer Research Center for Health Equity at Cedars-Sinai and supports the efforts to reduce cancer incidence and mortality and high-risk behaviors in under-resourced neighborhoods in Los Angeles County.
Thank you so much. Stephen, it still isn't giving me the ability to screen share.
Okay.
I'm wondering if there's something you need to press on your end.
I went ahead and I stopped, my screen share.
Okay.
Can you see any any of the presentation that I had up, or?
Yeah, I did. And then I see that it stopped. And now I'm just looking for an opportunity to share my slides, and it's not giving it to me. So
Laura,
I'm happy.
do you see the share screen function in the bottom?
No, I don't.
Yumi, can you make sure that she has that screen sharing function?
Oh, I see what happened. Okay, you gave it to me on my phone and not my computer. So this is what I'll do. I'll hang up on my phone and I will just do it from my computer.
Okay.
So Yumi, you might have to switch it.
Let me work on that for you, Laurel.
Okay. While we do this, if I can just answer one question here. So the plan looks great. Parking has always been an issue at the park. My concern is that there may not be enough in a new facility. What has been done to address parking?
Oh, Haji Abdullah.
Go ahead, Haji.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
So Haji Abdullah here. The overall master plan increases parking tremendously for the project. The good thing is that we are putting in a new parking lot, which will just barely increase parking. But we'll certainly also add in EV parking stations and as well as bicycle parking, in the hopes to encourage the community to use more pedestrian-related parking and to walk and bike to the park. In this phase, we are reorganizing the parking in the rear, and we will not be disturbing the parking that's currently existing back there. So we're not losing any parking in this latest Prop 68 application. We are reorganizing and we will still retain the same parking count in the rear. And so I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. And now, Laurel, I think we see your screen and we see you. So let's go to your presentation.
Okay, thank you everyone for holding on during that. So thank you for the opportunity to talk today with you really about the connection between parks and health. And as mentioned, I work at the Research Center for Health Equity at Cedars-Sinai and also collaborate with Deb Cohen, who is a research scientist at Kaiser. So it is becoming very well known that parks have multiple functions. They can be a place that foster mental, physical, spiritual health, advance health equity. They can be a safe space for kids and provide opportunities for them to flourish. They can also be a powerful prescription in combating chronic diseases and encouraging physical activity. So when looking a little bit closer at physical activity, actually physical inactivity continues to be a significant public health concern, and the rates of being overweight or obese are expected to continue to rise. And this has unfortunately negative health outcomes that include cardiovascular disease, diabetes, asthma, and several types of cancer, to just name a few. Unfortunately, these outcomes are worse among minorities and young girls. But there are also benefits of physical activity, especially on cancer risk. So being physically active can decrease the risk of several cancers, with even among those who maybe have a history of smoking or overweight. And for cancer survivors, those who are physically active tend to live longer and have less adverse side effects. So if we sort of zoom out for a moment and take a look at what research tells us about parks and park design and physical activity, we have some things that we can learn here. And this is Deb Cohen's area of expertise. Her and her team have spent the last 10 years really observing play and recreation in parks. It's this framework called SOPark. where they actually go to parks, they observe the different users, they record what they're doing. They were able to highlight what some of the disparities are in park use, as well as what popular features existed that promoted physical activity in park use. So some of the disparities include parks tend to be used more often by males than females. They're used mostly by children, which is a good thing, although they're used the least by seniors, which is not a good thing. Seniors represent 18% of the population, but only 4% of park users. Parks are used less in lower income areas, even if they have similar equipment. And fear of crime is a continued barrier to park use in certain areas. So what accounts for increased park usage? We can look at things like more space, more populated parks, higher income areas, places with nice facilities and good, strong programming, and also places that have on-site marketing and have put effort and investment into creating sort of a brand or an identity around a park. So we also know that parks with walking loops have more users, and this is especially helpful for seniors. Physical activity levels tend to be higher when we see walking loops, and just more usage of the park throughout the day is facilitated by these walking loops. Then when looking at playground elements, we can see that exciting features or playground features really do contribute to greater park usage. So things that kids are able to climb, slide, balance on, swing on, spin, splash pads are really popular and really promote physical activity and usage. So these are just a few examples of parks in the community that have really nice play structures. So also when we look at fitness zones, we can see that fitness zones increase park use and physical activity. They can be used throughout the day, but it also depends, the success depends on their usage, or depends on their placement. So when they're clustered together, there tends to be less vandalism and less fear of safety. And you can see here that fitness zones also promote new park users after they're installed. So now I will just give a pretty brief overview of one example or one initiative that we have going on at Cedars-Sinai to improve parks and health. So if we take a macro lens to this issue, we can take guidance from the WHO, who has set out this technical package for increasing physical activity. And you can see here that it's really a multi-sector, multidisciplinary effort needed to increase physical activity. And I believe that parks really sit at the center of these 4 different areas. So you're talking about environments and systems, people and societies. Parks have a major role in each of those 4 categories. And so with that framework and the multi-sector approach, we have launched an initiative called Shine LA, which is a 10-year research initiative linking to the 2028 Olympic and Paralympic movements that are coming to Los Angeles. And as mentioned, multi-sector approach is absolutely crucial. So we have we've been working with a very close partnership with the City of Los Angeles Department of Rec and Parks. We also working with Stanford University and Garmin, Discovery Cube, and also Art Center College of Design, who helped to really create an innovative and inclusive design that will be implemented throughout the city. So here's just an example of a mock-up of the type of signage that we hope to put around the city. Again, trying to be inclusive of all abilities and genders, racial and ethnic groups. So with this initiative, we hope at the end of 10 to 15 years that we can answer really important questions, like how do we promote physical activity in ethnically and racially diverse boys and girls and of all abilities? How can we harness the power of community to improve physical activity and mental health? And then how can we sustain these changes beyond the Olympics? So as I mentioned, this is a 10 to 12 to 15 year project. We're currently in phase 1, where we have been conducting formative evaluation activities. In the next phase, we will then take what we've learned, really build upon it, develop more interventions that will be deployed in the community. And then really phase 3 is the full scale intervention, which we hope will be between 100,000 and 150,000 children and adults across Los Angeles. So in this phase 1, we have wanting to connect with the community. We started by meeting with a small select group of parks across Los Angeles. We met with the Rec and Park staff. Rancho Cienega Park was not part of this initial phase, but we hope that eventually this will be extended out, and we'll have the opportunity to talk to most parks throughout the county. But we went in and we said, well, what is working and what isn't from the staff perspective? And what we heard is that there really is a desire to get more girls involved in sport. And there are a lot of different strategies that can be taken to address that. We also need to continue to have a holistic approach, especially in lower income communities, and recognizing that parks are not just spaces for physical activity and fun, but they also can be a place where people go and rely on food or childcare, or, you know, with COVID recently, even housing. So we have to continue to keep that whole holistic picture in mind. Good quality programming makes a big difference. Harnessing youth culture, tapping into you know, what's going on with the times in terms of music or merchandise, and then really promoting a safe place. And that can be done through partnerships with local schools, businesses, neighborhood councils, community groups, sports organizations, all of that. So we had planned our next phase of interviews and focus groups right before COVID happened, to extend out to the community organizations and neighborhood councils, some of those organizations that I just listed, like schools and police departments, but that was put on hold. We're hoping to pick that back up as soon as it's safe to do so. So where we are today is we are continuing to, through virtual or in person, listen to communities, identify common challenges, and then also identify common goals that will help us design this menu of pilot interventions that will improve physical and mental health across our county. And again, you know, over the next 10 years. So this brief talk, I was hoping that I was able to give a high-level overview of how some community-informed research really tells us that parks that are well designed provide spaces for people to have fun, but they can also be a space for people to find mental, physical, and spiritual health and social connection. And that has so much value on the individual level, the community level, the societal level. And so I think what's exciting about these Proposition 68 funds is that these could be used to expand or renovate existing parks like Rancho Cienega, and translate into directly improving lives in our community. And this park has a soft spot in my heart because I was a Culver City resident for a number of years, and I've spent some time in the Rancho Cienega area. So I am happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Laurel. So we'll go back to the Zoom presentation, and because you have to, I think you have another obligation at 2. So we'd like to take this time to answer any question that's specifically related to the Shine LA initiative and the presentation that Laurel presented to you. Just a reminder that this Shine LA is actually a different initiative from Prop 68, but we are using Prop 68, as a platform to just, basically provide you with an overview of this very important initiative of Shine LA. And if you have any suggestions on how Rancho Cienega can be involved, further, let us know, in the chat box or in our survey, and we can forward that information to Laurel and her team. So is there any question related to Shine LA and Laurel's presentation at this time? And if you, let's say, come up with a question later on, we can certainly forward that question to Laurel.
Yeah, we're here available, and we hope to have the opportunity to work with everyone in the community eventually with this initiative. So.
Okay. So we'll just wait, until there's any question. And Laurel, feel free to, go back to the other meetings that you've got. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, sorry for the bumpy start.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So the next question that we've got is, will there be any facility for the large homeless community that currently uses the park? A community kitchen, an office for security staff? Is there a plan for a community garden? Ohaji or Daryl, would you like to address?
Sure, Ohaji Abdullah here. I can address a portion of the question in terms of the current design. We currently don't have a design in place for facilities for the homeless. An office for security and staff is certainly part of the project and is being being constructed in phase 1 right now. And in outside of the Prop 68 scope of phase 2, there were plans to redo the maintenance building, rehab the maintenance building, and possibly place another security office in that building, so that we have eyes and views all around the site. The Prop 68 scope does include new lighting, which will tie into security cameras and the motion detectors throughout the facility and into the security offices in phase 1. The community garden, we currently don't have a community garden in the design. It was proposed years ago, and unfortunately, and I'll let Recreation and Parks speak to that. The past community gardens that we've seen have often been great ideas implemented, but then once key figures who are really managing those gardens disappear or fall off the radar, the community gardens become a maintenance woe. I'll let Recreation Park speak more to that. Thank you.
Hi, this is Daryl Ford. So yeah, just to pick up on a couple of things Haji said. So certainly to highlight the improved park lighting that's a part of the project scope will be a great benefit in the park. As noted, phase 1, there'll be staff that are in the recreation center building. So the facility will of course be staffed. And then again, down the road, the maintenance building, if and when that's be able to be replaced, which again is in phase 2, although it's not a portion that we're going to be asking Prop 68 to pay for at this time. That'll give the other option of having staff on the western portion of Rancho Cienega. So just to provide opportunities for additional eyes in the park. To get to the question of community garden, I think Ohaji hit it on the nail on the head right there. There is not a community garden space currently proposed for this project. And there are some challenges with operating community gardens. I think one thing that would be helpful maybe in the chat, just to drop off some additional comments or details, is are there other areas in and around this community where you think might make good options for community gardens? If not, if it's something that ultimately is not able to be accommodated at Rancho Cienega as a part of this project or any future projects, Are there any other ideas you guys may have in the community about other locations where we may be able to do those? They really do kind of require our partnerships group to work with establishing a good organization to maintain them and operate them, which we do have experience doing in establishing those partnerships. But key always is making sure that we've identified the right site that has a good location for that garden. So certainly, if there are any suggestions you may have in the chat for locations, other locations beyond Rancho Cienega, or if you believe that there are places at Rancho Cienega, again, Haji had made note that it come up in previous conversations that might make sense for that. That's the kind of input we'd love to hear. So if you drop any additional detail in the chat, that'd be great.
Thanks, Ohaji and Daryl. Just another question on parking. So specifically for automobile parking, the parking in the back of the park is the same as before, but the automobile parking on the Obama Boulevard side has decreased significantly. Where are these spaces being relocated? Since there are football, baseball, and basketball facilities for younger children, it may not be practical for parents with young children and other spectators to use bicycles and other forms of transportation.
Haji Abdullah here. I totally understand and I totally understand. We struggled with the parking for this facility and balancing the facility itself, the building size itself, with the new parking requirements. And the new parking requirements are what really reduced our parking count up front. In the presentation, the entire facility master plan was shown, and part of that master plan is new parking and a new roadway on the west side of the stadium. That is where we are not only accommodating that decrease, but increasing the parking significantly for Rancho Cienega, as well as the rehab and the relayout of the maintenance yard and formalizing more parking spaces back there. So there are some opportunities, but they're currently not in this Prop 68 scope, but we will be working with the Council Office and Recreation and Parks to go after funds to increase the parking on the site.
Thanks, Ohaji. And I don't see any more questions so far. We'll wait for a few minutes and see if you have any follow-up questions. Yumi, do we have any on Facebook?
We do have one question on the Facebook Live, which is from Aaron Willard, who asks, will you please restate the goals of the initiative?
I'm assuming that the initiative means the Prop 68 initiative and not the Shine LA initiative. So the Prop 68 initiative is to provide more capacity to improve the infrastructure, for underserved communities. And in this particular case, we are selecting projects in underserved communities to implement, renovations and park expansions, new parks. And this is a park renovation project that we are at this point preparing, to submit an application to the state for a Proposition 68 grant award. There was Laurel that spoke to us about the Shine LA initiative, and that is a separate initiative that Reckon Parks has partnered with Cedars-Sinai and other entities in order to prepare us, as we head towards the 2028 Olympics. And that initiative surrounds how do we improve access to park, for certain communities that have to do with under-resourced, features. And so I hope that sort of goes over what you mean, in the initiatives. We have several, but the main crux of this particular presentation and meeting is to present to you the Prop 68 project that's being proposed for Rancho Cienega Sports Complex. So I don't see any more question in the chat box. And at this point, I'd like to hand this over to Kimani Black from the Office of Council Member Mark Ridley Thomas for a closing remark. Kimani?
want to thank everybody for attending and for their input today. This is a very unique project. It's a unique location. I heard the name park brought up many times today, but we must keep in mind, this is just not a community park. This is a sports complex. The city of Los Angeles only has 2 stadiums that are run by the city, and Rancho is one of them. This is not a park where people come and have picnics. This is the place where people go and have recreational opportunities. So in thinking that forward, we want to make sure that we ensure that the maintenance is there for the many sports that go through there. The municipal sports for the city of Los Angeles contracts different entities to come to this location and play all type of sports. And that's what brought us to this point in time where we're at now, is to make sure that we have the resources to maintain our community park while people from outside the community are coming to use our facilities. Thank you all for attending. Thank you for your hard work, Daryl and Ohaji. We wouldn't have been able to get this far without you and the leadership of Gary Lee Moore and Mike Show. Appreciate everybody's time and have a great day.
Thanks, Kimani. And before we leave, we'd like to remind you to complete the survey, which is in the chat box. The survey and this recording of this presentation will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, so you can forward that to your friends and colleagues and family who have not had the opportunity to join us today. And on behalf of the Recreation and Parks, Bureau of Engineering, CD10, and our friends at Cedars-Sinai, we wish you a great rest of the afternoon. Thank you very much.